What up, YouTube? This your boy Wavy Wayne, back again. You already know what's up. Shout out to yourself, alright? I'm back today with another tip, man. And y'all been asking me for this, man. Y'all been begging me for this. Y'all want to get some insight into how Wavy Wayne processes vocals. Let's check it out. That's a fact. You heard it right. Today, I'm gonna take you into my session and show you everything that I did to this vocal to get it to sound the way it sounds, all right? So go ahead, let's kick back with some popcorn. Let's check it out. This record, actually, you know what I mean? I wanna shout out my boy, Jones Boy. We just finished this project. It's called It's Complicated. I'll leave a link in the bio down there. Super talented singer, super talented rapper. He's also a mix engineer himself, yo. He even helped mix on his own album with me on this project. Super dope dude. I want y'all to check him out. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that link below, all right? But this record is a title off of his newest project called It's Complicated. This record's called Time. And I'm just gonna walk y'all through the vocals, what kind of processing I did on these vocals. I think I'll just start off by stripping everything down, really just bypassing everything and introducing the plugins one by one and letting you know what I did, what was my thought process behind that. All right, so let's get it. So here we go. First off, I'm gonna play the vocal. I'm gonna play this little section of the verse here, let y'all hear that, get a vibe for how this sounds.
She said, you make time for the things that you wanna make time for. She said, I feel like I never cross your mind anymore. She said, I'm tired of sleeping alone. I'm tired of sleeping alone. The least you can do is answer your phone, your phone. Baby girl, I wish you understand. I wish you could understand. How can I give all my time to you when I'm trying to run up these bands? I gotta stick to the plan. I gotta be my own man.
All right, so again, super dope dude, man. Make sure y'all check that out. Now let's listen to this vocal without any processing. Well, let's just go ahead and back off everything. Okay, I got my sends over here on my right hand side, right? I'm using a delay, quarter note delay. Actually, that's not even being used unless there may be some automation on that. Let me check that. Well, yeah, I'm using that, but not during this verse, so we don't even need to worry about that. That's not being used. Let me go back. Let's see, I got an 8th note delay here, and I'm not using that on this lead vocal either. A lot of times, well, you know, if you have one of my templates, you will know I had this stuff pre-set up in the session already just in case I need to use it. And actually, you see here on this 8th note delay during the 2nd verse and the 3rd verse later on in the song, I introduced that delay via automation. So in this first verse, I'm not using that. Okay. And let's see, I got this wide plugin. Again, I'll show y'all that in a second. I'm using a lot of that, and I'm using a lot of reverb here on this vocal as well. But the reason I'm not using a lot of delays, again, this is the first verse, it's the beginning of the song. My whole theory, I like to let my songs build up in excitement and build up in effects and layers, okay? So we starting this song off pretty simple. As it builds up and grows, you know, there'll be more delays and more types of effects that happen. But I felt like for this first verse, it was a very intimate kind of feeling, and I wanted to keep it right there in your face, you know, without those delays. So here we go. On my inserts, the type of processing I have here, I'm using a de-esser, a compressor, a EQ, auto tune. I'm using this RVox plugin, which is one of my favorite little secrets, the smack compressor, another multi-band compressor, and then another EQ. So I'm EQing several times, I'm compressing several times, all at different stages. But Wavy, why not just use one EQ and one compressor? Because I said so. But you know, I feel like I use these different processes at different times. Some of them have special characteristics that I like to add in, and you know, just adding a little bit of flavor in. You see, I'm using 3 compressors on this track, all of them doing slightly different jobs and working together instead of squashing that vocal all with just one compressor. So I'm getting a variation of things happening here. Well, actually, I'm using 4 compressors. Am I even using the compressor on here? Well, yeah, I'm just using the 3. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna break you down from the beginning. Let's just go ahead and bypass all of this. Now, my reverb and my wide effect, I'm gonna keep the reverb on there, but I'll just take this wide effect off. And I'll also keep the auto tune on there, okay? Y'all know what auto tune do. Y'all know what it's used for. I'm on here, I'm using a very light pitch correct. Okay, and I'm just gonna start there. I'm using a very light pitch correction on this auto tune, and I have this auto tune EFX, super simple. I have the other auto tune Evo as well, auto tune 8, but for this I felt like it was simple enough to just go with that pitch correct plugin. If it sounds good, it is good, and that's a fact. Run with that. All right, so I got my auto tune. Now the first thing that I did with this vocal is de-ess it, okay? So I like to go ahead and catch a lot of the sibilant frequencies early. So you'll see a lot of times I'll go ahead and apply a de-esser right out the gate, just in case that there are any sibilants that's happening as I'm recording it in. I'm gonna go ahead and truncate those signals right now. And so the frequency that I'm using this de-esser at is about 5500 hertz, 5,500 hertz. Now I usually would have that de-esser a little bit lower than that, but for some reason I guess it worked at this 5,500 hertz range. Let's see what this de-esser, see what this track sounds like.
She said, make time for the things that you wanna make time for. She said, I feel like I never cross your mind anymore. She said, I'm tired of sleeping alone, I'm tired of sleeping alone.
Okay, now with that, you can automatically hear that de-essing is really truncating those S's a lot. To me, that's not a big deal because I know I'm going to be adding in some high frequency stuff later, and it's going to really help to bring that back out. But I want to have those S's controlled rather than them just being wild. So I like to control using that de-esser there. And then the next thing that I'm doing is with my compressor here, I have a compressor. I'm using a light ratio, about 2.5 to 1 on the ratio. A pretty fast attack, moderately fast attack, a pretty long release time. The threshold set pretty high there. So I'm really, on this one, I'm kind of just catching the peaks and making sure that the signal isn't like peaking whenever he gets excited. So just controlling the dynamics of the loudest parts really with this compressor is what I'm doing. We'll listen to a little bit without it.
She said, make time for the things that you wanna make time for. She said, I feel like I never cross your mind anymore. She said, I'm tired of sleeping alone, I'm tired of sleeping alone. The least you can do is answer your phone, your phone.
So you also hear my background vocals on there as well, but that's where I hit that compressor at. Now I do like to compress my vocal before doing the auto tune. I feel like it helps the auto tune be a lot smoother if the vocal is compressed going into that auto tune. So I'm getting about, what am I getting here? I'm getting about 5 dB of gain reduction on that vocal right there. So that's pretty good for me. And then let's see what I'm doing with this EQ. Well, with this EQ, I'm making some subtle changes, but definitely kind of drastic, definitely needed for this record. I'm rolling off my low end using my high pass filter. I definitely recommend that, especially on the vocal. I like to roll off that lows just in case there's any low end rumble over there. I'm actually even using a low pass filter on this vocal too to kind of clean up some of that high end. Now that's not something that I do on every single vocal, but again, I feel like it must have worked on this case. Let's just take this off bypass and listen to what this track sounds like with this EQ.
She said, make time for the things that you wanna make.
Well, since the level, well, I'm gonna solo this because the level's off, obviously, because I'm using a bunch of other compressors, so it's not as loud as it is in the real mix. So I'm just gonna solo it so we can hear the difference of this vocal with the EQ and without the EQ. Now, I definitely don't recommend that you work in solo mode a lot as you are mixing, right? The less that you solo, the more fast, the less you solo, the faster your mix will be realized. And that's because, you know, you don't want to spend a lot of time working on an individual element of the mix. I always say that that's like cooking the ingredients of a cake separately, right? If you take the egg and cook that, and take the sugar and cook that, take the flour and cook that, and then once they all cooked, you try to put it together, I don't think that's gonna be a cake, man. Right? So you want to cook everything together, you want to blend it all together, and so that's no difference when you mixing.
She said you make time for the things that you want to make time for. She said I feel like I never cross your mind anymore.
So you can hear.
She said, I'm tired of sleeping alone. I'm tired of sleeping alone. The least you can do is answer your phone, your phone.
So you can hear how that EQing really opens up that vocal. I'm doing a lot more reduction than I am boosting. I'm only really boosting about this 5K, about 2 to 3 dB, about 2.5 dB at 5K there. But I'm boosting out this mud down here at 250 Hertz. I'm doing the dip on this frequency that may get a little annoying and maybe a little bit harsh right around 2K. So I'm cleaning up that vocal and brightening it up just a little bit with this EQ. I'm gonna play it again one more time and then bring it into the mix.
She said you make time for the things that you wanna make time for. She said I feel like I never cross your mind anymore. She said tired of sleeping alone.
Okay, now let's check out my next plugin. Now my next plugin that I'm using here, this is the RVox plugin. I really like this plugin. It's super simple, but I pretty much put this on every vocal track that I have. It has a couple of sliders here. I'm not using the compressor. It has a compressor built in, really simple compressor, you know, just set the threshold, I guess. I'm not really sure what this thing is doing over here, but I know that it compresses it, right? And it sounds good when I need it. It helps to bring out a lot of presence in that vocal whenever I use that. But on this case, I didn't need that. Again, I'm already using about 3 other compressors, so I simply just use this for the gate. It has a really simple gate on it that I like to use, so let's just hear that. I'm gonna solo this so you can kind of hear.
She said you make time for the things that you want to make time for. She said I feel like I never cross your mind anymore. She said I'm tired of sleeping alone. I'm tired of sleeping alone.
Right, so you know, it's just kind of getting out some of that background noise and attenuating some of the breaths in between the phrases just a little bit. So that's why I got that on there. Now the next effect that I have on here is another compressor, and I really love this compressor. I've been using this compressor for probably 10 years now. This is the Smack compressor. It's a DigiDesign original. Leave a comment if y'all been rocking with Pro Tools since it was DigiDesign. All right, leave a comment if you know about that. But you know, for y'all newbies out there, DigiDesign is the company that Avid is today, right? DigiDesign is the old name of the old company that used to produce Pro Tools, but now it's Avid Pro Tools. It used to be DigiDesign Pro Tools back when you had to have an inbox to open up your Pro Tools. Now all you need is an iLock. You feel me? Leave a comment if you a real one, okay? Okay. But this Smack compressor, they actually still sell this because it is one of the most powerful things that I've had from a DigiDesign stock plugin for sure. So basically with this compressor, let's just listen to it. It's just a really warm sound. I use it in this optical mode to help opto mode. Opto mode produces a soft knee compression with longer attack and release times. In opto mode, attack and release controls are grayed out because they are set internally based on the input and output. Okay. So I like to use that opto mode. And it works for me, especially on this vocal. We're gonna hear, I'm gonna bring it in here.
She said, You make time for the things that you wanna make time for. She said,
what?
I feel like I never crossed your mind anymore.
Now this didn't get a whole lot louder.
She said, you make time for the things that you wanna make time for.
It might have got about 2 dB louder, but like the presence of that vocal really jumps out with this smack compressor on there. So I throw that on there, and I'm attenuating maybe about 2 dB on here, knocking off about 2 dB.
You make time for the things that you wanna make time for.
So again, this not really smacking it too much, even though it's called the smack compressor. I ain't smacking it too much. I'm not doing any really heavy lifting with this compressor, but it just works. It adds that extra oomph to the vocal that I'm needing here.
She said,
let's listen to this with the beat, with and without.
She said, you make time for the things that you wanna make time for. She said, I feel like I never crossed your mind anymore. She said, I'm tired of sleeping alone. I'm tired of sleeping alone. The least you can do is answer your phone, your phone. Baby girl, I wish you understand. I wish you could understand.
Okay, so now you can understand why I like to use this smack. Again, it helps to bring out those subtle characteristics in this voice. It gives it a thick, warm tone that everybody loves to hear. Okay, and what I'm doing next after that smack, I'm going into the C4 multi-band compressor here. Now, I like to use multi-band compressors on vocals. I ain't gonna lie. All right, I like this C4 multi-band. What am I doing on this C4 here? Let's see. Let's just play this, see what's happening.
You make time for the things that you wanna make time.
You can hear the difference immediately with that, right? I'm really kind of compressing the high mids a lot. These high mids are really kind of being compressed a lot here. And then I'm also giving them a little bit of a boost as well to really bring those out, because that's the spot that really needs to stand out in this vocal. So I wanted it to not be so dynamic, and so it can be more constant. So I put a little bit of more heavy compression on the high mid range of the vocal, and also boosting up that frequency as well. Okay.
She said, you make time for the things that you wanna make time for. She said, I feel like I never crossed your mind anymore. She said, I'm tired of sleeping alone. I'm tired of sleeping alone. The least you can do is answer your phone, your phone. Baby girl, I wish you understand. I wish you could understand.
Without it?
How can I give all my time to you when I'm trying to run up these bands? I gotta stick to the plan. I gotta be my own man.
Okay, really beautiful stuff there. And then, so I really like this multi-band compressor. When I'm working with this multi-band compressor, when I'll probably do a full video on this, but when I'm working on this multi-band compressor, what I'll do is solo that vocal, right? And then I'll go through and solo each of the individual bands and get their compression, right?
You wanna make time for.
And I'll get their compression of each of the bands. I'll get the compression right, get the attack right, get the release right on each one of the individual bands within this multi-band compressor, and then bring it back to the mix, and then boost anywhere I need to boost, and turn up, turn down, whatever I need to turn down as far as the levels. That's when I kind of use it like an EQ. So I first started by using it as a compressor, mainly in solo mode, and I'm compressing the individual bands of frequencies to, you know, control their dynamics. Once I feel like I got each band controlled how I want, I introduce that vocal back into the mix, and then I use the gain of each one of the bands just like I would on the EQ. Oh, do I need a little bit more highs now that I've compressed it, or do I need a little bit more mid-range now that I compressed that band as well? All right, so that's what I'm doing with that multi-band compressor. And lastly, I'm using this UAD Potec MEQ. I really like this thing as well. You know, even sometimes, even if I don't do anything on this EQ, it just helps just by having it on the channel. It actually adds a little something to it. But you know, I'm doing just a little bit here. On the high end here, I'm giving a little boost at about 3K right now. I'm boosting about like 1.5. I don't think that's dB. I don't know what that is. It's just 1.5 units on the Potec. All right. And then over here on my low end over here, where like my low mids here, I'm giving a boost at about 300 to bring a little bit more of that body back in, add a little bit more of that fullness and warmth. So let's see what this sounds like in that vocal. Let's bring it back into the mix though.
She said, you make time for the things that you wanna make time for. She said, I feel like I never cross your mind anymore. She said, I'm tired of sleeping alone, I'm tired of sleeping.
You know, I'm gonna use this little switch to turn it off so y'all don't hear the click, and let me know if you're hearing the difference. I'm gonna start off with it off.
She said, you make time for the things that you wanna make time for. She said, I feel like I never cross your mind anymore. She said, I'm tired of sleeping alone, I'm tired of sleeping alone. The least you can do is answer your phone, your phone.
Okay, so to me that adds a little bit more of a depth to that vocal a little bit. It sounds a little thicker by kind of giving that little boost around that 300, and again just making it a little bit more intelligible, like, you know, being able to hear the distinction of it by boosting right around that 3K, just a little bit. Really subtle stuff happening there. So you know, that's just a little personal preference of mine. Okay, so again, I'm not really using any of my time-based effects right now during this verse. The delay or the quarter, none of the delays. We already hear the reverb. Let's see what reverb am I using for this mix. I'm using the Reverb. All right, I'm using the Reverb with a Studio A preset setting that, you know, in my template. I got that loaded up on there. I think on here I just adjusted the pre-delay time, the reverb time probably, and a little bit of the size, right? Check out my video tutorial on how to use reverbs and time-based effects in your mix for more information on setting that up. Okay, but I also had this wide plug-in. Now this is one that I really like. Let's listen to when I bring this in.
She said, you make time for the things that you wanna make time for. She said, I feel like I never cross your mind anymore. She said, I'm tired of sleeping alone, I'm tired of sleeping alone. The least you can do is answer your phone, your phone.
All right, so you can see right there, it just kind of stereoizes that vocal, spreads it out a lot more across the speakers there, and adds some lushness. And for that, I'm simply just using that Waves doubler too, right? Okay, using the basic doubler preset. If you go to hit load, hit that basic doubler preset, and I may have made a few adjustments in there, but that's where I started from, is just that basic doubler. All right, and that's that vocal right there. Now what y'all hearing, I do have some background vocals going on and all that, but I think I'll say that for another video. Man, I think we done went on long enough. That's my vocal processing chain, my vocal chain that I've used on this record. I use something similar on each record, you know, but you know, kind of breaking down my thought process as I'm going through it. Hopefully it helps you come up with something that works for you and works for you on your next record. All right, what's your vocal chain like? Do you use any of these plugins that I'm using? Do you think that I should be EQing before I compress? Do you think my auto tune should be before the compressor? How do you do your mixes? And let's hear them. All right, shout out to yourself. Thanks for watching this video. This your boy Wavy Wayne. Make sure y'all hit up wavywayne.com, cop some gear, man. Support your boy so I can keep on giving away all these gems. Be dope.